Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Chronicle, and this movie came out in 2012, and this movie is directed by Josh Trank, and it stars Dane DeHaan, Michael B. Jordan, and Alex Russell is in it too, and I thought this movie was pretty good. This is the first time I've seen this movie, and when this movie came out, it was pretty popular. Everyone was talking about it, and there was a lot of hype for this movie, and despite it being a found footage movie, it was like a movie that a lot of people really liked, and I do feel as though this movie stands out as a found footage movie, and I also think that this is a great first feature film from Josh Trank. And I've never seen any of his movies. He hasn't made that many movies as of recording this, but this is the first one I've seen, and I did not watch Fantastic Four, his Fantastic Four movie that he made called Fant Four Stick, because I heard it was bad and there was a lot of drama behind the scenes, and there's a whole story you can just read up about that movie. But this one I enjoyed, and one thing that makes it stand out, and you might be surprised when I say this as a positive, is the way the movie is shot. And with this movie and what it's going for, and I'll explain this in a minute, there's some really nice, smooth camera movements in this movie that I feel helps this movie out a lot. I do have one issue with that, though, and I'll get into it later in the film with how the movie's shot, not with smooth camera movements. But going back to other positives, I thought the acting was pretty good, and I thought this was a really great breakout role film for Dane DeHaan and Michael B. Jordan. They weren't big names before this movie, but this movie just blew up and they became names. And Dane DeHaan has been in a bunch of films, whether you enjoy his performances or not. I remember enjoying him in Lawless, and he was in Oppenheimer. I remember him in that movie, even though he didn't have a big role. And Michael B. Jordan, he's been in a lot of stuff since this, including all the Creed movies, and he's been in Black Panther, and I haven't seen Fruitvale Station yet, but he's also in Sinners most recently, which I haven't seen yet. And normally one thing that kind of turns people off about found footage movies is that they're always horror movies with cheap scares, but this movie isn't a horror movie. It's kind of a superhero movie where our three main characters obtain superpowers, and it's telekinesis, and they can just move stuff with their minds and whatnot. That's where the smooth camera movements come in with this movie, is that they use their powers to move the camera, and it actually looks pretty good. You can show this movie to someone who's not a fan of found footage movies, and they'll probably enjoy it simply because it's not shaky cam nonsense every scene. It's not perfect in every scene, but I do feel as though that's kind of intentional because in the context of the film, it's a character who bought a camera and is kind of figuring out how to use it, and it just uses his powers to make things more steady so you can see things more clearly. And I really enjoyed the first half of this movie. I really enjoyed the scene where they get their powers, and the scene in the cave was pretty cool. There's lots of cool stuff in this movie, and it does capture what high school life was like in 2012, because that's when I was going to high school around the time where this movie is taking place. I also thought this movie was pretty fast-paced, and the action scenes were entertaining throughout, and the first half is pretty light and fun, and the second half is where things take a dark turn. Not immediately, just kind of eases you into it, and I thought it was executed pretty well. And also the three main characters were interesting and entertaining to watch, and even the abusive dad character, he made sense within the movie. He had development, and I understand why he was doing the things that he did, even if he's not a super fleshed out character. I do feel as though you get just enough that his character makes sense. But the only character in this movie that I didn't like was Casey. That character, she was kind of annoying. I just wish that she was not in the movie at all, and honestly, if you cut her character out, the movie would be no different. But going into some of my issues with this movie, one of the biggest ones is that the visual effects in this movie don't really hold up. I never once felt as though they were a part of the environment. they always felt like two separate things. Sometimes people were in front of a blue screen or whatnot, and it felt like actors were in front of a computer generated effect, and it was just very distracting at points. And despite what I said about the drunk dad character, while I understand him as a character, I never really felt intimidated by him, simply because of the main character having powers, and you could just imagine him beating his dad, his drunk, abusive dad at any point. I was like, why don't you just do that sooner? I don't know. And there are some elements in the plot that just don't make sense towards the third act. And honestly, the third act is where this movie starts to fall apart. Because not only is there this big action scene, which is kind of cool, but unfortunately, there's like so many different cameras going around that switching perspectives, and you get lots of close-ups and sometimes wide shots. And after a certain point, it kind of feels like, is this still supposed to be a found footage movie? Because it honestly stopped feeling like it after a certain point. I can't exactly say where, because in order to do that, I would have to go frame by frame to really tell you the exact moment where I felt like, okay, this is where it doesn't really work for me in terms of it being a found footage movie. It's just a regular, normal movie, not found footage, just like cuts and different angles and whatnot. But aside from that, I thought this movie was pretty good. It's a really good first feature film, one of the better ones that you could come across, and I really enjoyed this movie. I understand why it was successful. Apparently, people have been waiting for a sequel to happen, and that still has not happened yet, and I don't think that's going to happen ever, probably. They're more likely to remake this movie than to give it a sequel. Not because it did poorly, it was a huge success, but I just don't feel as though anyone's really interested in making a sequel. Who knows, I might be wrong about that, but that's kind of how I feel as of recording this. But I thought this movie was pretty good. I would definitely watch it again. It was a lot of fun in the first half. Second half is where things got more serious, and I still enjoyed it, but third act could have been a bit better. So definitely check this movie out whenever you get the chance. It's currently on Max. If you want to check it out, that's a place to do so. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Chronicle a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Chronicle, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Where the Wild Things Are from 2009, so look forward to that. But until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.